Hi.
All right, thank you for joining us. I'm Rachel. I'm the bakery coordinator here at the co-op. So tonight we're going to do chocolate covered strawberries. We're going to do some Tuxedo berries, which you may see at some weddings or formal events. They're just kind of a fun, different type of chocolate covered strawberry. Then I'll do some more traditional ones like the ones that we sell at the store. And then we're going to do some different truffles that we sell at the store as well. So you could either make them at home afterwards, or you can come to the co-op and purchase some of our truffles here. So the first thing that you want to do is have a double boiler set up. So if you saw the link, we did a little video a couple weeks ago on how to set up a double boiler. So what a double boiler is it's a pot of water with water in the bottom, obviously, and you want to make sure that the bowl is nowhere near the water. So you don't want it touching the water. And the other thing is you want to make sure that the bowl seals around the pot, because what happens is that chocolate is hygroscopic. So if any water gets into your chocolate, it will get kind of grainy and seize up and it will be unusable. So you always want to make sure you boil your water, turn the water off, and then put your chocolate on to melt. So I have white chocolate melted here. And you might need a little bit more than a cup, depending on the size of your berries. So that's gonna vary a little bit. So I've melted some white chocolate here. And then I also have some dark chocolate that's melting. So whenever you're working with melting chocolate, when you go to move your bowl, you just want to make sure that you wipe off the bottom of your bowl. So if anyone is following along at home, feel free to ask questions, or I can slow down at all if you need me to. So something else that I find that's super helpful, especially because we want this nice big bowl depending on the size of our pot, is we can actually pour our chocolate into something smaller. Now you don't have to do this. It just might make it a little bit easier to control the dipping and kind of get all that chocolate into one place. And please feel free to ask questions as we go along. Okay. So after you wash your berries, you want to make sure that they're very dry. Again, having water on your berries can just make the chocolate seize up and get a little funny looking. And if it's dark chocolate, it can make that a little bit streaky. So we don't want that to happen. So when we're doing our Tuxedo berries, the first part we do is that white shirt underneath the tuxedo. So we're going to do our white chocolate first.
Real quick, we do have a question from Judith. Is anything added to the chocolate when it's getting melted?
So for these, we do not. Sometimes we add a little bit of canola oil to some of our chocolate to give it a nice shine, to soften it up a little bit. But for the berries, we don't do that. Berries are obviously very, they don't last long. So they only have a couple days shelf life, so we don't need to put the oil in there. With the truffles, we do, and it makes them a little shinier. They last a little bit longer, but with this, we just use straight chocolate.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to hold it by the stem. You just want to make sure you don't grip it too tightly, because you can obviously pluck that off. If you're more comfortable, you can kind of grip the top of the berry. So I'm just going to very gently dip in all directions. And then one of the most important parts is that we kind of let it come off, and then I just drag the back side of my berry. And then when I set it down, and then I push a little forward. And what that does is it allows the berry to not have what I call a foot. So a foot would be if it kind of has that pool of chocolate on the bottom. So again, I'm being very gentle with the stem. Some of these berries are a little heavy. So again, I'm scraping. And then when I set down, I give it a little push forward. And you're gonna do, if you were doing just plain dipped strawberries, which will do some of those as well, you're gonna do the exact same thing, whether you have white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate.
And then push forward, okay.
And this is how you would dip any sort of fruit as well. Obviously not all fruits have stems, but if you're doing pineapple or cherries, you would do it very similarly. All right, do a couple more of these.
It's very soothing to watch.
I know my hands are a little shaky, but. And again, depending on the size of your berries, might just depend on exactly how the final berries look. And also how much chocolate you might need will vary a little bit depending on the size of the berries.
Did you say that was a cup of chocolate?
Yeah, I have a little more than a cup here, just because some of these berries are fairly large. But if they were all smaller, around this size, a cup would definitely suffice. So I'm gonna save a couple of these to do some dark chocolate cover. So I'm actually gonna set these aside just for a minute. And then I'm going to show everyone how to make a paper cone out of parchment. So one of the supplies that we talked about needing was either a plastic piping bag, which you can get at a lot of local craft stores, and you can get them at here locally. And then I'm going to show you how to make these fun little parchment cones. So this can be made with any sort of parchment that you can buy. We sell parchment here at the co-op. So basically, all you need is the parchment and a pair of scissors. So you're going to start with a half sheet size of parchment. If you have larger parchment, you're going to cut it in half till you get this size. Once you have that size, you're going to take the corner of your parchment and you're going to make a perfect triangle with a nice sharp crease here. And then I'm just going to very gently cut. So the most important part here is that this edge is very clean and sharp. So some people use a knife to cut this edge straight across. I'm just using these very sharp, tiny little scissors because the most interesting part is that this flat part here, my triangle, is actually going to become the tip of my bag. I want that perfect triangle, not this wonky side. You don't want this. You want the nice triangle. So again, like I said, this is actually going to become the tip of your bag. So follow along. You might need to try a couple different times, but eventually it's kind of a muscle memory that you kind of get. So we're going to fold in, and then I'm going to fold in again. And as I'm doing this, I'm pulling tight and I'm moving it to create this kind of cone shape.
Everyone see that?
I'm going to turn it around so that it looks, so one piece is in the inside and one's on the outside. So I'm going to do it again.
Nice.
One more time. So again, this is going to be the tip of our bag. This is going to become this. Here, I'm going to take my gloves off real quick. Okay. This is really handy if you don't have any parchment bags at home or any plastic bags at home to make a parchment cone. It's just this easy. So again, as I'm doing this, I'm pulling in and up to make that corner really tight because again, that's going to be the tip of your bag. So you want it to be really small when you start off. Sorry, it's hard to do in the camera. So real tight. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's as tight as I can get it. And then I'm going to fold it in. Mm-hmm. And then what I like to do to make sure that it's kind of secure is I'll just rip it. And then you can tuck it in. And that kind of allows it to secure itself so that you can pour chocolate inside of it. So that's, I have these 3 little cones here. So I'm going to jump back to our chocolate. So we're going to do the tuxedo part of our berries. So if anyone has any questions, again, please feel free. I'm just going to heat up my chocolate a little bit.
Yeah, any questions, you can drop them right into the Q&A function. There's also a chat function. Keeping an eye on that too.
Warm this up and thin it out a little bit. So as chocolate starts to cool, even though this is melted, it's a little bit thicker than I'd like. So I'm just heating it up just a little bit. Back on my water. Okay.
That's up pretty fast.
So I'm going to just dip these remaining berries that I left here. Again, I always want to make sure that I get that water off that bowl so that the steam doesn't go up into my chocolate.
Got another question from Judith. Do you chill the white dipped berries before adding the dark chocolate?
So if you want to do them faster, absolutely. You can stick them in the refrigerator. And what I'm going to show you is that my first couple berries have started to set up. So while I'm doing other things, the berries do start to harden up, and then I'll be able to show you the tuxedo on those as well. I'm only going to do a few of these so that we can move on to the truffles, because that's going to take a little bit longer. But these first few are definitely set up enough to show you how to do the tuxedo. But yes, refrigerating them, they'll be set up within 5-6 minutes if you're able to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Now, this is the important part. Okay.
All right, tuxedoing.
So to tuxedo the berry, you're going to hold on to it, and you want to create that tuxedo jacket effect. So I'm dipping the corner and the corner and leaving it in a V to create that effect. So again.
Okay, and so you like to, tilt the bowl.
So I'm tipping the bowl. So again, this would be another case where you could put the chocolate into a smaller container, but I'm just going to show you if you have the bowl. So I'm holding this berry to create that V pattern.
And you're doing the drag. Nice.
Drag, and then we're going to set it down. I'm going to do one more. And again, these have they're very easy to do, and they have kind of a wow factor to them, which makes them really fun for special events or just for fun at home. We all need a little extra fun and fancy right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm very carefully going to fill my parchment cone, or if I wanted to use one of the plastic bags, you would do the same thing. So this step, I'm just going to use my little cone. Part can be a little messy. Sometimes I have a helper like this. So I'm just getting, and you don't need a lot. This is a small drizzle. And you definitely don't want to overfill it. So I'm going to then seal up my bag so that it doesn't make a mess, or at least a big mess. And I'm going to cut a very tiny hole in the bottom of this parchment. So very, very tiny hole. Okay. I'm gonna flip this. I don't know if I can do this backwards. Okay. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very carefully fight teeny tiny little triangles. And again, it's very important that this hole is very small. So again, very tiny triangles. Just using a little bit of pressure. Don't have to squeeze very hard or you will kind of make a mess. Just like that. And then with these other berries, you can do anything you really want to. So I have some fun little sprinkles. So you can pick up sprinkles at Premier or any local small shop that has fun sprinkles. And then you really just want to have fun with it. You can just use this same bag and do a little drizzle. Add sprinkles. You can do dark on dark, which is actually one of my favorites. And then just add that little bit of sprinkles. Like that.
Oh, those look great.
Even just leaving them like this. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, but I am going to slowly start to move towards the truffles, if everyone's okay with that.
Okay.
Any questions?
Let me check right now if we've got any questions. Sorry, hold on. Where am I?
Any questions?
Here we go. We've got a question.
Okay.
Judith, okay, can you post them to me in Toronto, please? All right. Oh, Judith, wish we could. They're so cute.
All right, we good to move on?
I think we're ready.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so these are the truffles we're going to be making, the almond and the orange that are shown here. So in my pots, I'm making both kinds of ganache at the same time, just to speed it up a little bit and show everyone. So I have 1 cup of cream in each of my pots. And I've cheated just a little bit by I've already heated up my cream a little to speed this up a little bit for us. Kind of TV magic. So I have just some heat-proof spatulas here, and I want to get the cream almost to a boil. And then I have 2 cups of semi-sweet chocolate. So once my cream is hot enough, I'm going to wait just another minute. I'm going to put my chocolate in until it all melts. And then today we're going to make orange and we're going to make almond truffles, but you can really make any flavor that you want. We got our orange extract at Pensie's over on Elmwood. We sell some extracts here at the co-op, but you can use any kind of extract that you want. You can do raspberry, you can do strawberry, you can do coffee, or just a plain vanilla if you like just a plain chocolate truffle. And just experimenting with that. So you just substitute the tablespoon of flavoring for whatever flavoring that you really like. You can even add like a different, like an alcoholic liqueur to that, which is kind of a fun twist as well.
Is there a liqueur that you recommend?
I really like the Grand Marnier. Makes a really nice chocolate amaretto.
Yeah.
Again, kind of keeping with the same flavors, but that's what I like. You could do a Kahlua again for the coffee if you wanted. It wouldn't be quite, it would be a little more subtle because you can't add so much liquid that it would make it soupy or the truffles won't hold together.
Okay, so if you're adding liqueur, still stick to the tablespoon?
Yep.
Okay.
Even if you think you want to add more flavor, you'll have to just use an extract maybe on top of the alcohol as well. But that's, if you have any questions, you can always.
Susan asked if we add the same amount of liqueur as extract.
Yep, I would not change the ratios because again, you're just going to end up with a softer chocolate and it'll just be harder to roll your truffles. So truffle mix is super easy. So basically, if you've ever made a chocolate ganache, which is just cream and chocolate, that's what we're doing. And we're just going to add a flavor and a little bit of butter for a little extra richness. And that butter also helps that chocolate firm up. You know, when butter is refrigerated, it gets nice and hard.
So when you add the chocolate, do you want to continuously stir it?
If you turn your burner off, you don't have to continuously stir it. My burners are still on a little bit for keeping this, so I definitely want to keep stirring them. I don't recommend keeping them on. I'm just doing it to speed this up a little bit. I would definitely, you can walk away if you need to, if your burners are off, and the cream will just kind of melt that chocolate, and then you can stir it all in or whisk it all in. Okay, so at home, you're heating it to the point of boiling, did you say? Almost boiling. So it'll start to bubble and kind of start to steam a little bit. That's when you can turn it off, put your chocolate in, and you can walk away if you need to, or you can just stir it in. Love that. I just still have my burners on right now, so I do not want to not stir it. I'm at the point where I can turn them off. Nice. Because chocolate will burn very quickly. So you definitely do not want to leave it. And that's, again, why we don't want on a double boiler the water to touch the bottom of that chocolate, because even the water can heat that chocolate too much.
And Susan just asked what brand of chocolate we're using.
So we're using the Ghirardelli that we sell here at the co-op.
It's just like this.
Yeah, it's a nice 60% dark chocolate. And you cannot substitute milk chocolate or white chocolate for this recipe. So I want to just be clear on that. White chocolate and milk chocolate have milk in them, milk solids, which make the chocolate softer. So if you were to try this exact recipe with milk or white chocolate, it would be way too soupy. So I'm adding the butter now. I'm just going to stir that in. Just emulsifying everything together. Butter is nice and mixed in.
Mary is wondering, what about semi-sweet chocolate?
Yeah, so you could use a semi-sweet. I wouldn't use anything less than a 55% chocolate. 55% cocoa solids is going to, that's what we actually use in our recipe in our kitchen. And then anything higher, like a 60%, 65, even a 70 will work. You'll just have a little bit of a harder truffle, which it's not going to be hard because you still have the cream in there. It's just a little bit harder than the other. So I'm just adding a tablespoon of orange to this one.
Susan's asking if we can get printed recipes for this, which Susan, we did send you a link to a PDF in your confirmation email. So if you check that out, you'll be able to follow that link to a PDF with all of the recipes and also a video featuring Rachel, and she's showing you how to set up that double boiler. You'll be able to find that same PDF on our blog. So you can go to lexington.coop. If you don't want to sort through your email, it's on our blog right now.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to make sure everything is equally mixed in here. Butter, my extract, completely melted and mixed in. And then a tip that I have for this is to put them in some sort of a shallow pan. So at home you might have something like a casserole dish or a Pyrex container. That's what I use at home for a lot of this kind of work. So something shallow and larger will just allow your ganache, which is the inside of your truffle, to cool faster. You can absolutely put it in a different container if you were going to leave it overnight. But if you want to try to do this within an hour, 2 hours, which is absolutely doable if your refrigerator is cool enough, you just want something shallow so that that ganache really sets up. It's all mixed in and incorporated. And then having something this shallow, again, is just going to allow it to cool down a lot faster.
Okay. It smells great.
And then we're going to do a little bit of TV magic.
All right, TV magic. Susan's wondering, does it make a difference what kind of pan you heat everything in?
No. No, it does not. No, the saucepan does not matter. Okay. So once your ganache is completely set up, this will be what it looks like. It will have a nice firm texture.
Here's the TV magic. So
these are the ganaches once they're set up. I actually went a step further and I already have, so in the instructions, if you read the instructions, what you'll see, this is my almond, so is that you want to scoop them. Once they're scooped, you're going to put them back in the refrigerator because you want to make sure you have nice round truffles. So you want to keep them as cool as possible, and our hands tend to be very warm because the next step, once your ganache is set up, is going to be to take either a small scoop or even a melon ball, or you could use a tablespoon if you wanted to. If you have one of these nice scoops, which again, you can find at places like Premier or local stores that are really nice. So what you're going to do is you're just going to scoop them. This is my almond onto a piece of parchment.
Because the goal is that you want all of them kind of the same size, right,
yes.
Rachel?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And if you're doing this at home for fun and you just have a spoon, you go ahead and do that too. This is just to make them all even. So this is what it looks like once I scoop it. It's nice and soft still. And that's why it's important that after I go ahead and I'm gonna, if I were to scoop all of this out, I would then refrigerate that, which I've refrigerated 6 each of these already. So we've got a little bit of each step of the way already prepared for us. So once we scoop these ganaches that have set for about 2 hours at home or overnight, these ones actually set up overnight here at the co-op. So then I scooped these earlier. These have been refrigerated. I just pulled them out, and that's what we're going to work with to continue our truffle.
So Rachel, if you wanted to split this recipe up into 3, like if you want to do 3 different flavors, could you do that by just pouring it into 3 different, you'd have to heat up the chocolate in 3 different
you absolutely could. This recipe doesn't make a ton.
Okay.
So you might just want to see how much it makes and then decide what size batch you want to make. So now what I would do is I have my double boiler with my chocolate for my truffles. So this chocolate has a little bit of canola oil in it. Again, it just gives it that extra little shine, and it allows it, if it's going to be sitting out for a couple of days, it allows it not to bloom and get that streakiness. Again, we didn't do it with the strawberries because the strawberries are going to be eaten a lot quicker because they're a fresh fruit, obviously. So we do put the oil in here, and it allows that shine to the chocolate to last a little bit longer. So while we're working on our truffles, we can have that going. So I'm going to take our truffles that have been scooped, they're cold, and I'm going to work fairly quickly now to roll them between my hands. And again, you're working in a constant rolling motion, and you don't want to touch them too long because, as you can see, it does start to melt on my gloves. So you want to work fairly quickly and keeping them as round as possible. It's just chocolate and cream, so it's going to want to melt. And if it starts to melt and it gets a little gooey and a little misshapen, you can just pop them right in the fridge or even the freezer if you want to go a little quicker.
So it is best to work in smaller batches like this then. Okay.
I'm going to just change my gloves as I go to the other flavor. Again, working fairly quickly. And this is really fun to do with kids. I actually did this with my kids at home last weekend with something very similar. We made cake truffles, which is cake and buttercream, and I had them rolling the little balls like this, and it's just kind of a fun family activity as well. So I've got these rolled. Now at this point, if they are really gooey, you can refrigerate them. Again, it is a little labor intensive, but it's definitely worth it. Yeah. Or if you don't feel like doing it, you can come to the co-op and purchase them that we've made for you. So something else that I did previous to this is I toasted some almonds for my almond truffles. So if you're going to do this, you obviously want them to be cool when you go to use it. Okay, so I've got my melted chocolate again. I want to make sure this bowl is nice and dry. Now this part is important that you do work quickly. Again, if you're nervous about this part, I would definitely just refrigerate or even freeze your truffle balls before you get them. So I'm just taking an ordinary fork. There are candy tools that you can find even out there. A fork works just as well. So I'm going to start with the almond. And again, you're going to work very quickly. I'm going to coat. Because the chocolate will want to start to melt. So I'm going to do that kind of, tapping, that dragging. And then I'm just going to gently place it, and then I push it back into its pool of chocolate. So again, pushing that chocolate or whatever it is forward into the little pool will allow it to not have that large foot. And if you have that pool of chocolate underneath, then it's just more chocolate to eat. But if you want a more refined looking truffle, you just give it a little nudge into its pool. I'm working very quickly. Mine are a little soft, but they're turning out really nice. So again, you can always just cool them back down if it starts to get too warm. I don't have any more TV magic to show you, so I have to work with what I have, but they're turning out really nice. And there are recipes out there if you wanted to do milk or white. It just would not work with this exact ratio of cream and flavoring. You would just have to have more chocolate to cream if you wanted to do a different flavor.
And if you wanted to cover these in white chocolate, could you do that?
Yep, you absolutely could. Yep, there's no reason you can use just melted white chocolate like we had for the berries. That would absolutely work as well. So then I'm going to switch to my orange.
And Susan is wondering, can you use any kind of alcohol for flavor?
Sure.
Or does it have to be? Okay.
Yeah, I've done whiskey truffles.
Whoa.
Yeah, you could do.
You can't hold out on us with that one. That sounds great.
Yeah, if you like more, you know, in your face flavors like that.
Yeah.
At home, I tend to add alcohol to a lot of different desserts. My husband really likes whiskey, so it's just fun to add. So again, if you have that pool, you just push the truffle right into that pool so that it doesn't create the foot.
Yeah, Susan's saying bourbon, which is great. I think Jim would enjoy those too, Susan. That's Jim's mom.
Yes. Yeah, if you were doing bourbon, I'd put a little bit of salt on there too.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Again.
Those look great. Judith is saying Kahlua would work.
Yes.
Love that.
I love that everyone wants to put alcohol.
I know.
All right.
Boozy truffles.
Yes. So then if you wanted to, we could just let these set up. Again, like we did the berries. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my other parchment cones and I'm actually going to put some white chocolate that I have left from my strawberries. Just going to do a little bit of white chocolate.
Roll the top down. Oh, roll it down and then you cut it,
roll it. Yep, and then you cut it.
That makes sense.
And then for my almond, what we do here is we just do a real quick striping.
Could you put any food coloring in the white chocolate?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
so,
don't do that.
Absolutely not. So hold on 1 second. I will explain why. But so then what we do is I have my toasted almonds and I just pick out the really nice whole pieces and just stick them on there for a fun little effect. Really elegant, but also fairly simple. So if you wanted to ask if you can color white chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer is yes, but not with traditional coloring. So you have to buy special powdered food coloring. I'm not even sure where to find it locally, if I'm being honest, because chocolate is hygroscopic, like I explained, the same reason that you don't want the water from the bowl to go into your chocolate. If the water from the food coloring gets into the chocolate, it will seize up into a hard mass, and it won't even be usable anymore. It's not like it won't be undesirable. It literally will seize up into a block, and you won't be able to use it. It's very interesting, actually.
It is interesting. So it has to be a powder.
Yeah, so powdered food coloring.
I wonder if beet powder would work.
Maybe.
I'm gonna Google that later.
Yeah, and then for the orange chocolate, we just do a little bit of orange sprinkles. And if you wanted to, you could even do whatever you want. You could do the striping on the orange. And then I have that fun Valentine's Day mix. You could doll up your truffles. And this is really just a few ingredients. You know, it's cream, it's chocolate, it's butter. Nothing super, you know, difficult. It's just a little time consuming, and it's
a labor of love.
Really, yeah, it's really fun.
Love that.
Yeah.
And this is what they look like for sale at the co-op. So you get 2 almond, 2 orange, and then what's the one in the middle, Rachel?
That one is a coffee one. So the coffee one is rolled in chocolate shavings, which the technical term for a truffle that looks like this is kind of fun. It's called a poodled truffle, like the dog.
Okay.
Yeah, so if anyone has any other questions,
any other questions?
Feel free to reach out.
Seems like we had a breakthrough with the alcohol, with the liqueur. Chris says beautiful. Thanks, Chris. Let's see. What do you add to make coffee truffles?
So we use a special coffee extract. Okay. You can find coffee extracts probably at Penzies or Premier. We use a special one that we get from one of our purveyors called Truffle, and it's a really good quality extract. But you could do like a boiled down coffee syrup. I know even maybe like a cold brew concentrate. Again, you don't want to add any more liquid than is already in the recipe, though. Okay. So keep it to that tablespoon, right? Yes. And it has to be okay. Judith said, beautiful. Thank you. Can't wait to try. Awesome. And when you do try, I hope everyone takes pictures. And if you share them on Instagram, go ahead and tag us. Love to see what you make, especially because you can get pretty creative with this. So just for fun to show everyone, I added water to this chocolate. Oh my gosh, show us. So I added like a little bit of water to this white chocolate. Wow. So this is what would happen if water gets in your chocolate, or if you tried to put food coloring into it. So like I said, it's not that it's just not undesirable. You won't be able to do it. Turns into a mass of, so that's why you can't get liquid. That's our fair warning from Rachel. Yeah. All right. And so you always want to wipe the bottom of your bowl. Yep. And then it's super important that even if you have a smaller pot, even if you have a normal size pot, not a stock pot, that you always have, you know, it's again sealed along here, and that if there was water in here, it's not touching the water. You'll get some water from that condensation from the steam, but that it's not sitting on top of the water. That's super important. All right, important steps. Thank you. Hold on, we got a couple chat. Looks great. Oh, thank you, Cindy. Thanks for coming. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. We will have we have the truffles out now. We will have the chocolate strawberries on Saturday for sure. We get the long stem strawberries in. So those are coming in for us, and we will have them fresh dipped for Valentine's Day. Oh, great. And if you have any questions in the future, you can always reach out to us on social media.